Hey, welcome back. Are you a growth-minded entrepreneur? Are you in perhaps the marketing or creative agency space? And could you use a little bit more of advice on money and finances, etc., from a CPA and a CVA? Well, we're exactly in the right place here. We're here talking to Chris Hervochon from betternumbers.cpa. Who knew that .cpa was a domain suffix? It's amazing what they keep inventing. And we're here to talk about better books, better taxes, better decisions. Mr. Chris is all about helping growth-minded entrepreneurs with bookkeeping, with tax and advisory. So we're here to have that conversation about your goals, about your cash flow, about your financial data, a strong foundation, and so much more. So, Mr. Chris, glad to see you, glad to talk to you.
Thanks. Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. And so, it's all about you and what currently has you excited, energized, focused. So, what are you all about? What's on your mind these days?
What's on my mind these days? That's a good question. So there's been a lot of change that's happening in the accounting space around technology and AI. So that's one of the things that I think about in our firm quite a bit. Another thing that I think about in our firm quite a bit is how do we make it an easier place to work? And then the third thing that I think about a lot is how do we create and communicate incremental value for our customers. So how do we help our customers create better businesses? And that's really what we obsess over.
Very nice. And I think you're so right that it's as nerdy as geeky as it sounds to say like, oh, there's new things happening in accounting. It's like I took for granted early on being a business owner how important it is to get your numbers right and to also be timely. And it seems like especially with the cloud and AI, there's this need for things to be real time. That way you just kind of look at things at a glance. And when you look at there's basically two types of people, right? There's people that are bad with numbers, are bad with money. And what does that mean? It means that the money just goes out the door, right? In their personal life, in their business. They don't know even what the ins and the outs are. They're afraid to look at that bank balance. And then you see again and again people that they seem to like love money in whatever the healthy fashion that is, and they're fine like looking at the bank balances. And something that completely changed my view on all this, Mr. Chris, was I was afraid to like open up my bills like 10, 15 years ago. I was like, oh
Yep.
no, what's in there? And then I came across someone that said like he would like kiss the envelopes one at a time, kiss his bills. And I was like, well, that's a silly reframe, and it's like a better way of looking at it. And so how do we tap into this number money mindset? How do we get excited about accounting and finances and payroll and all that stuff?
So I don't think that anybody's necessarily bad at money, but one of the things that you touched on was being afraid of it. And I think that's what we see more so than not. It's people are just afraid of it either because maybe they had some sort of a bad experience in high school algebra, or maybe they had some sort of bad experience in running a previous business, or maybe they're just scared of what they don't know. And that's what they try to avoid. So we need to bridge the gap from that to how do we take those numbers and take those insights and then just make it more approachable and then tie that into this is the benefit that you are going to have inside of your business. So if you know this, and then if you're able to make this decision based on this new thing that you now know, how is that going to impact your business? How is that going to impact your employees? How is that going to impact your customers? How is that going to impact your family? How do you turn this into a better business? So really, just kind of breaking down that gap as far as this is a thing that I'm afraid of and I don't want to touch it, to the benefit of I can now make these decisions based on this good data that I have and just make it more approachable. So like one of the things that we talk about a lot is numbers on the page. And we don't want to just throw a P&L at you or a balance sheet or whatever and just have it be a whole bunch of numbers on a page. You don't really know what it means. Nobody's ever really explained it to you. You probably didn't go to college for accounting, right? You're in business because you do this thing that you're really good at and you like doing it, not necessarily because you want to be doing the bookkeeping or that you have an accounting degree. People who have accounting degrees, they go and become accountants. They don't become, generally involved in other businesses. So Just realizing that this is a barrier for people and then breaking down that information into either bite-sized nuggets or presenting it in a different way so it's not just numbers on a page. Having a discussion about it and what things mean, maybe showing it graphically, maybe just showing it in KPI form, maybe not necessarily showing it in P&L form. Just depends on the business owner, but just understanding that that's where that comes from, and then that's the way that we need to approach it in order to turn it into actionable insight.
I like it. So there's a gap to be crossed. There's that saying that everything you want is on the other side of fear. And you're saying
Mm-hmm.
that, well, it's not just about the numbers, it's then what the numbers will then lead you to, right? What the decisions are to be made afterwards. And you think, like, even in like to simplify it, like a household situation, you say, well, I'm afraid of budgeting or all that. But it's like, yeah, but if you budget, then you can go to Disneyland. You could take the family on a
Mm-hmm.
vacation. In your business, you're afraid of looking at the cash flow and the money in, money out. But if you had that figured out, maybe you could hire some employees. Maybe you could make some, take time off. Maybe you could, get higher ticket clients. There's all these possibilities on the other side for you. And, you say that the money fear might come from childhood. And I think that we can all kind of flip that around and we can think about our childhood and think about like, well, remember like hooked on phonics, or remember like a schoolhouse rock, or like playing the
Yep.
video games and getting the high scores. Like, sure, there might have been those traumatic money experiences. Maybe our parents fought over money, but maybe we also had fun. Like I remember in school, the like learning about different types of coins, and there was like the little paper quarter and the paper nickel. I might have been like 4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it depends on what you decide to tell, what story you tell yourself, and what you think about it. And
For
so
sure.
when someone comes to you as Mr. Chris Hervochon, CPA and CVA, like what's your typical client and before picture? Like where are they stuck by the time they come across you?
So usually it's going to be one of two places where they're stuck. Um, the vast majority of folks are going to come to us because it's either they don't hear from their accountant, or they don't have a relationship with an accountant somewhere like that. But it's usually because they just don't hear proactively from their accountant. That's by far the number one reason why people come to us. And if you kind of think about what I just said a couple minutes ago, and it's just kind of breaking down that silo. They don't have that person who's there to advise them and explain the numbers to them and walk them through what's actually going on in their business. So that's the biggest one. A smaller segment of the folks that come to us, they're going to be newer business owners. Maybe they've been doing their own bookkeeping, maybe not, but they're at a spot where they know that either the volume or the complexity is just too much, and they know that they need help. So those, both groups are fun to work with. It's just a matter of where they're at in their life cycle. So really, from that point of view, what we're really trying to do when we get either of those groups on board is just figure out, okay, this is where you are right now. Where are you trying to go? And then help them to build that roadmap from here to there, wherever there is. It doesn't matter where there is, but there is going to be specific for each business owner. It's what success looks like for them. So how do we help to help them navigate that roadmap from wherever here is to wherever there is?
Very cool. And you're sort of subtly pointing out two ways to stand out in business in general, right? You say number one, be that proactive person, and that applies to any space, right? You figure like, okay, how do I stand out in the weight loss space? Well, if there's all
Mhm.
these weight loss apps and coaches and everyone else goes and hides, if you're the person that proactively goes and helps out your clients, hey, that's a way to stand out. And in the accounting space, there you go. And then the other field you say is in making the complex simple. If someone is handling something themselves, then you can do a lot of things yourself, right? You can fix up your own home, handle your own tenants if you're renting real estate. But any of these businesses or situations gets big enough where it's like, hey, at this point, I'm tired. It worked for a while, but I have better things to do,
Mhm.
or just to keep the momentum or keep the growth, I need some outside help. I need someone like Mr. Chris and betternumbers.cpa to get a better handle on these things. And 2 years ago, or 2 months ago, I was talking to someone who kind of was a number nerd, and I love what she said. She said something like she meets with her accountant once a month, and they just kind of go
Perfect.
over the numbers and make sure things are great. and I think she pays like $100 a month, and I'm just like, man, like that. But when I was 20, 30, I would have hated that. But now that I'm 40, I'm like, hey, having gone through things the hard way, I'm like, I kind of like the idea of being more proactive and having sort of I mean, partner in crime doesn't sound good when you talk about like money, but like a
Yeah, maybe
sidekick
not crime, but a partner.
partner in fill in the blank to kind of just help you to make decisions and work out problems and to see what story the numbers are telling you. So in spirit of that, when you come across someone in one of these two spaces and you just you make some change happen, what usually happens? Like, what do you usually do as far as getting things dialed in, getting some up to speed on the software? Like, what do you put in place?
So software is one of the first things that we put in place. What we're looking for in terms of software is a connected ecosystem. So what that means is that the hub is going to be your general ledger. You can think of your general ledger as something like QuickBooks or Xero or FreshBooks, whatever it is that you would typically think of as your bookkeeping or accounting software. That's going to be your general ledger. So what are the things that connect into the general ledger? And we're talking about things like payroll, your bank account. How well does your bank account play with your general ledger? Bill pay software, analytics software, forecasting software. The list goes on and on and on. But we're very specific about our GL because we want to make sure that we're playing in the best ecosystem. So that's number one. That creates a whole bunch of efficiency, and it breaks down those data silos that are inside of your business. Siloed data that's not a good thing. We want all of these things to be connected so we have a holistic view of what the business is actually doing. So that's the first place that we start. Where we really kind of help people, the biggest one I would say is in preparing to sell. We've had quite a few customers in the last couple of years who've been preparing to sell their business, and so helping them navigate that so that they get the top dollar out of that. That's helpful. Fixing cash flow issues. A lot of times business owners come to us and they're cash strapped. So they're working really, really hard and they're not seeing a whole bunch of benefit in their bank account. And so they just think, well, if I just work harder, then I'll have more money and I'll be better off. That's not always the case. Managing cash flow is super important because it creates a whole bunch of other benefits. It helps you to hire that next employee, or it helps you to not have to work as hard so you can spend more time at home with your family, whatever it is that looks like for you. Usually the cash flow is going to be the symptom. It's not going to necessarily be the cause. So getting to that root cause and fixing that cash flow problem. Profitability, that's another big one. Just making sure that we're getting the most out of the business that we possibly can. That doesn't mean that we're greedy or we're cutting corners or anything like that. It just means that we're optimizing the cost structure and the revenue structure so that it's optimized for your business. So you're getting the biggest bang for your buck for the investment and the time that you're putting into your business. So really, I think it's kind of those three things. It's if you had to distill it down, it's getting the most out of your business as far as a financial gain for you. It's freeing up time for you, helping you to scale, and then also it's helping you to sell at some point, helping you through that exit process.
Very nice. And that whole endpoint there of selling a business, it's always exciting. Like, I'm sure you can imagine, Chris, like I've talked to 1,300 different entrepreneurs, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
what's the most exciting outcome? It's like selling that company and then getting
Yeah.
money from it and then buying a new company or starting a new one and just kind of going through these huge leaps and bounds in your lifestyle, right? And so you're
Yeah.
saying
It's
that
also the scariest too.
it's what now?
It's the most exciting and it's also the scariest point.
Yeah, exactly. And it's scary to even like think about like, oh my gosh, I have to have my finances in order. And it's this like really irreversible decision. And so you're saying
Mm-hmm.
that the first step in all this is to figure out your source of truth, right? Your general ledger, your GL. You say, well, what's the one hub where all the numbers go into place, the one place I can look. That way I'm not just like kind of dumping and exporting and putting all this together. We've all been there at some point, right? You have to
Uh-huh.
like
For
merge
sure.
spreadsheets. It's never fun. You have your one singular, your Zero, your QuickBooks, your FreshBooks, wherever you go and you look, and then you think, okay, well, what's this entrepreneurial journey all about? It's like fixing up your business, right? Getting other people to do the work. That way you kind of can elevate your presence in your hierarchy, right? You don't want to build
Mm-hmm.
yourself a new job. Maybe if you do that temporarily, fine, but you want to eventually like get someone else to run it. That way you can focus on more of the publicity, like the podcasting that we're doing here. and then get to the point where you find a buyer. And then that way, either you are in a great position where you have a business that like runs itself and you don't even want to sell it, or you do want to sell it. And hey, that opens up some real life choices and possibilities. And so, what do you think holds people back, right? They find you, which is a great thing to do. You get them figured out with the software and this new mindset, and you make them aware of some problems. But success is never a straight line. So what happens along the way when you do this work for companies? Like, where do you think they might get frustrated or stuck?
Um, the most common place where I think that folks get stuck is they get very head down in the business, and they don't have that 30,000 foot view of how do I get myself from being head down and just being another cog in the wheel, or being the bottleneck in the business, or being the person that everybody comes to with a question. How do I get out of that and then turn it into I am the business owner and I'm helping to basically move the ship forward? I think it's really, really easy as an entrepreneur to get stuck in the business as opposed to working on the business. It's super, super easy. I think that's where it starts. Ways to get out of that are proactive planning. The number of customers that come to us that don't have a budget, something as simple as a budget or a business plan. It's shocking. So even just starting from a good spot of I have a plan, I have a budget. I know that in order for me to get from here to there, I need to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to measure my progress along the way, just like having a GPS right in your car. Like you're not going to go take a 7 hour drive anywhere without having some sort of GPS in your car, hardly at all anymore. Your business works exactly the same way. So you have no GPS, you get in there, you get head down, you're not focused on the bigger picture. And then before you know it, it's 5 years later and your business hasn't really moved forward. Um, we've gone through an economic cycle and maybe your business isn't as profitable as it was. And you're just kind of, your head spinning. You're like, well, where did I go wrong? And I think you just have to back up and take a bigger picture view of it sometimes and go from there. But I think that's where most entrepreneurs get stuck. It's just being head down and being focused in the business as opposed to on the business.
Yeah, 100%. And it's there was maybe like one or two recessions ago, there was, like when you're younger, you're stressed out about world events and you think, oh my gosh, how will this affect me? And then you wonder like, well, how seriously do I take it? And is the apocalypse going to happen? Well, no, but like what might happen? And like, so maybe one or two recessions ago, something came up about like Japan's lost decade. And they were like, well, is the US going to have something similar to that lost decade? And just made me think about like my own situation and just like, well, that's not a good place to be. Like you think, well, is
Hmm.
if I don't have my numbers dialed in, well, is my business gonna collapse? Will I become broke, homeless? Well, maybe not. But this idea of 5, 10 years pass and you're still in the same spot, you have a whatever the lost decade for your own business. That's like kind of not really what you want, right? Because then you're older, you can't get the time back, different responsibilities, and it's just like that's not why we got in business, right? You wanted the variety, we wanted the adventure, and for like just the sameness, that's not a good place to be. And so we want
Hmm.
to be better. And it seems like as you're explaining all these things to be done, it seems like it boils down to like communication and leadership, right? It's like that you need to get good at writing down what you want and this business plan and what you're working on and like document for others. And then there's the need of communication or like numbers wise and like kind of figure out the finances. And then that kind of leads to, you mentioned about like this sort of time management bucket and like strategy, priorities, and like steps, deadlines, milestones. And these are all things that like maybe we've heard separately, but to like put it all together, it can really be a recipe for us to, like as we've been saying, be more proactive and like happen to life and happen to digital marketing instead of it happening to us. And so it's
Hmm.
definitely a new mindset that we need to adopt versus what we've been doing that got us here but won't get us there. And
Oh,
as
sure.
far as what we need to someone needs to know as far as being ready for you or working with you on some better numbers, what question am I not asking you in our conversation here? What should I be asking you? I just don't know to ask you.
Um, that's a really good question, actually. Um, For somebody to be ready for us, they need to be a little bit open minded about their financial situation, which basically means that they need to want help, right? Our best clients are the ones who want help. Our worst clients are the ones who don't, because good accounting cannot happen in a silo. It's not possible. We can't sit, in our office and not have the context about you and your life and your business and how you're operating, and also do great accounting and be a great advisor, to you. It's not possible. So, having that open mind, being willing to get help, that's probably the biggest thing. And just let the professionals do their thing. So whether it's accounting, we see this a lot in legal too, because we're kind of on the other side of legal stuff. When folks want to go and chat GPT their operating agreements or their LLC formations and that whole thing, like that can go sideways too. Same sort of situation. You need to be open minded and be willing to ask professionals who are really good at what they do, for help, and then have those people talk to each other too. So you've got kind of this team of advisors, and then that's the place that will help, to start get you moving forward. But you have to be willing to have a conversation.
Very nice. So, and you've been saying in a few different contexts, siloing is bad, holistic is
Yep.
good, and we need to be more open-minded and willing to change our ways and willing to ask for help. And then you're also shining a little spotlight on the AI and Chat GPT of it all, where like I hear this a few times that Chat GPT is good for filling in the gaps, but like don't just say, "Hey, Chat GPT, do all this for me, do all this operating agreement." But it seems to be good for like asking questions or finding the problems or the holes in your logic, knowing that, well, it can point things out, but you don't blindly trust it. And it might help you to know what you don't know. And then you can ask your CPA or your attorney about it. But it's definitely don't use it to drag your business. Use it as someone who is helping you out. And so, as far as someone actually taking this next step, right? You've given us a lot of great advice. You told us how we can change our ways and change our thinking. And what is the criteria? What are the pre-qualifications for someone contacting you and getting your help?
Yeah, so like the perfect client for us is going to be, a business owner. Like we're fairly large in the, professional services space. Business owners that are generally somewhere between 500,000 and 5 million in revenue. Usually somewhere between 3 and 10 employees. That's really our niche. That's the space that's good for us. We do have a fairly specific tech stack that we use. So just having an open mind about, technology is great, working with us too. And if anybody's ever interested, you can find us on the web, betternumbers.cpa. It's a great way to find us on our website.
Very nice. So we said betternumbers.cpa. If you're that kind of business that you are 500,000 to 5 million in revenue, 3 to 10 employees, then Chris would love to have this conversation with you. He is a bookkeeping, tax, and advisory company for growth-minded entrepreneurs, and that's betternumbers.cpa, where they can just talk to you and help you out about some of these ideas. Accurate, reliable bookkeeping is the foundation of your business success. Strategic tax planning and preparation save you money and headaches. And if you understand your financial data, you can make informed business decisions. And that's betternumbers.cpa. We've been speaking with Mr. Chris Hervochon. But before I let you go, Mr. Chris, it's time for the scary part of the show where I try to make you completely blank out, be a deer in the headlights, be totally on the spot. It's where I
Mhm.
ask you for a quote or lesson that has served you that you can pass along to us. So, what do you have for a quote or lesson?
Yeah, so the lesson would be just be helpful. And that was a big revelation for me several years ago. I read a book called, Getting Naked. It's about advisory. And so I read that book, and really the whole premise of the book is just be helpful. Just be helpful to your customers. Just be helpful to your employees. Just be helpful to the folks who are around you. And it's a total game changer. So that's actually our purpose, cause, and passion. If anybody who's listening is familiar with EOS, that's our purpose, cause, and passion inside of our firm, and it's just be helpful.
Very nice. Just be helpful. I think it's John Rockefeller says, if you help everyone get what they want, then they will help you get what you want, or something along those lines. And
Hmm.
entrepreneurs, business owners, it's all about solving problems. So just be helpful. And that applies to you and your business, but it also applies for Mr. Chris helping you out with your finances, with your numbers. So betternumbers.cpa is the place to go to get help. And then on LinkedIn, we'll have a fun in a second spelling out his name. That's Hervochon, Chris Hervochon. And it's always great to connect with someone that you heard on a podcast, because they're real people, right? It's not like you turn on TV and you see characters on like a doctor or lawyer show. There's Mr. Chris. He loves numbers. He loves getting all these problems solved. He loves getting your accounting, bookkeeping, payroll issues figured out. That way you can unbottleneck yourself, as he's been saying, and get to growth and get to selling and get to possibilities and get to the lifestyle design that your business was supposed to be. But sometimes you get off track. It's okay. Chris can get you back on track because he believes in just being helpful. And you can find out more about him at betternumbers.cpa. Go ahead, do it right now. Bookkeeping, tax, and advisory for growth-minded entrepreneurs. You go there, there's a button there, it says get in touch, and you can have that conversation and discuss possibilities. So, Mr. Chris, it's been a blast speaking with you, getting dialed into this new way of thinking and taking action. I really appreciate you being here and educating us.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me.